What's going on, everybody? This is Samir Azizi, and welcome to Azizi Podcast. Today is part two of my podcast with Mori Zihayat from Heisenberg Network. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me here again.
Of course, it's my pleasure. I feel like we still have some things that we didn't cover, and I really wanted to make sure we strike while the iron is hot and just kind of like discuss those things. But first, I just kind of like today is what, April 4th, I think, and the markets are going crazy right now. I was just wondering because I was like waking up looking at the portfolio and just like the market and it's like tanking 10%. Are you like looking at those things? It's just like my personal question, I guess.
No, I don't actually take a look that much.
Uh-huh.
I've been asked this question a lot that how much even I do kind of, the financial side of the Web3. I do these days, I do a lot of focus on the developments. And I think
Mhm.
this is a good time. When the market is down, it's the time to develop more. And that's kind of the part we are now.
Yeah, I'm basically also, well, I didn't look at the market because I usually look a lot, like I just track it, my portfolio and just like overall I'm interested in different companies. But in the
Yeah.
past, week, I was just so busy catching up on things. I didn't even check anything. I just like, and it was actually very liberating not to check anything.
Okay.
And I think that's just the product of like making sure you're ready when this happens, right? So like you're not too exposed to the market and it's just like, okay, like it's not gonna be the end of the world if something tanks. I think that's what matters. But I
Mhm.
just did check out today and it does look pretty crazy, but it makes me think about Warren Buffett. He is in T-bills, like he's sitting pretty right now. But basically it's like a at some point, people will probably start buying stocks. And again, this is not a financial advice or anything like that, but I'm just thinking like, okay, maybe I should jump in at some point. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is that we're talking to you, we're speaking right now during the time when markets are really, really tumbling due to tariffs with the United States and all of that. And I just want to kind of acknowledge that what's happening in the world right now as we speak.
Yeah, I know what you mean. One thing that I believe, if you look at everything from the long-term perspective, including the investment, you mentioned Buffett, right? There is a book called Psychology of Money. The author, the writer gives a very interesting tip saying that, okay, you can get rich if you survive in the down of the market. If that's kind of, that's how it works. And I believe that when you look at the long term, for example, from the crypto perspective, if you are a believer, so trust me, these ups and downs are always good. These are just maybe some corrections, but down the road, longer term, you get what you were looking for.
Yeah, and what like, and the reason why I'm not panicking, like the book you mentioned also, is because this is like it sounds really, really like it looks like it's a very artificial manual like market tank. It's not like an economic forces, like an invisible hand or anything like that. It's literally like they tanked it themselves on purpose. Like that's the part of the plan. So
Hmm.
I'm like, I'm not saying like I'm not worried, but I feel like I want to like check out how it's gonna like develop, like what's gonna happen there
Yeah.
um because it seems like it's part of the plan. I'm like, okay, well let's see how this plays out. So
Well, I think one thing that we should learn from the history, there are always ups and downs, regardless of what's the factor or what's the trigger, right? If you look at, for example, Bitcoin trend, you'll see that it went a lot of down,
mhm.
right? And it recovered and it actually went up. So the same here, but yeah, as you said, it could be even artificial, but hey, what can we do?
Yeah, we can just I guess we can do our best.
Yeah.
I don't want to like say some wrong things, that people can misinterpret it. So like don't do
Yeah.
everything at your own risk. Don't listen to me. But yeah, Maury, we've covered some, good ground last time about Heisenberg Network and you're the core contributor. I call you co-founder, even though you prefer to the term contributor. But it is the culture we live in, right? It's the culture
Yeah.
of the founders mode. So let me just give you a quick recap what we talked about last time, and I guess for our audience, it's going to be good as well. We talked a little bit about, your personal journey in AI and blockchain. We've discussed the inspiration and mission behind Heisenberg Network. You explained what data agent is and how they create this AI-ready data and solve this problem. You talked about AI projects fail and successful projects, and what's the kind of signals on that. You broke down the Heisenberg's approach to decentralized compute and using idle CPUs, which was a pretty fun conversation, especially for a lot of our people in the audience who want to have some extra side hustles. We've been comparing Heisenberg to traditional cloud services and the cost benefit analysis of that. And you highlighted how community can earn crypto by contributing to the CPU power. And that's where we kind of stopped. And I wanted to expand more on that. Did I miss anything that we talked about last time, Mori?
Yeah, no, that's all. Yeah, I think these are the ones that we discussed.
Yeah, and I think this is a great point to discuss, the crypto part, because Heisenberg is at the cross of AI and crypto, but the both are actually like big deals. The both parts are how do you say, like, they're essential to the company, and that's why it's not something like we just slap it on top just to be trendy. It really matters. So I guess my question to you right now is, AI is controlled by a few big tech companies. Do you think decentralized AI is the future, or will the big players actually will always dominate?
Very good question. I hope the first one happens rather than the latter one. That's how I see it. But personally, I believe that uh, the value of decentralization is getting more and more tangible to the community, to the users all around the world, right? Maybe 5 years ago, when we were started actually using the decentralization, we were looking at it more the value of decentralizations to bring the efficiency to AI in terms of the cost and compute, right? But decentralization now is getting more and more tangible from the other values on the human, which are the privacy, is the centralized power, and the consequences of these power if it's held by some big companies. So in terms of, if decentralized AI is the future, I believe that it must be. Of course, it depends on the execution. It depends on how we are moving forward, but there must be some way to decentralize the power of AI, right? And that's because then you'll see what happens when one particular company has the power. They have this kind of turn on, turn off button, right? And
Hmm.
if they have this power or using a different way, it can get really scary. It can be very consequential on all the society. So to me, yeah, decentralization is getting bolder and bolder in the communities and in the worldwide, particularly in AI, because now people see what AI can do, right? And that could be a bit scary.
It does seem like it is a must to be decentralized, and for me personally, I feel like it's all about training. And if you train LLM in certain way that just like a one true way and everyone has to use that, then it's a very kind of a 1984 type of book type, like it's very like we only think in one way and you only get your information in one way because it's trained by a certain cluster of LLMs, and it's just like that's the truth now, but there's a lot of risks in that, because what if that's actually not the truth? Like,
Yeah.
what it'll tell you 2 + 2 = 5, right? But you're like, but it equals 4. Like what the hell? And it's like, no, that's not true. And then you just get like
Yeah.
gaslit into this. But decentralized training, I feel like it's like everyone, it's like a true spirit of the internet. Like everyone's sharing their input, and you kind of have to like figure out, like the LLM has to figure out what's the output that you present to your user. I think that's like
Yeah.
for me like the most important part. So I guess that's yeah.
Yeah, there are many layers to decentralization. I discussed the decentralized power, but if you look at the whole AI kind of, ecosystems, the decentralization starts from the data. Who owns the data, right? Why a single or few companies should own the data of everyone, right? Or why I cannot leverage that one for myself. Then it comes to the processing of these data, which is, let's say, Heisenberg is one of them. Then it comes to modeling. That's what you mentioned, right? Why few companies build these LLMs, why everyone cannot build them. Then it comes to use of these LLMs or AI per se, not LLMs necessarily. And so each of these, the decentralization actually take the whole power, take the whole ownership from one or few shoulders and give it to whoever contributed, right? Or whoever involved. And then what's the consequence? There are powers that I, as a person of the society, can decide should my data being leveraged in this particular AI ecosystem? Or if it's being leveraged, what's in it for me, right? I'm sharing my personal data. And then it comes to the LLM that or AI system that maybe is doing something based on your data. Am I kind of accountable for that, right? These are all something that kind of to me different layers and angles of decentralization. Sometimes we just see it from the power, but there are many layers there that kind of can impact your life as an individual.
100%. And I feel like we're going towards that direction, but it's like a struggle of two philosophies, right? Because we have these big companies, but at the same time we have now decentralization, which leads me to crypto, right? Because that's the essential spirit of decentralized currency, like Bitcoin and all of that. And now we're kind of putting that philosophy on artificial intelligence and compute as well. So that leads me to the next question, of course, is like, there's some certain skepticism, of course, about blockchain and crypto, and rightfully so. We have a lot of like different cases where it's like not the best way to go, where some people were scammed or something like that with some of the project. So like, what would you say to someone who asks, why does Heisenberg need blockchain? Can this be done without it?
Mhm. That's actually a very good question. First, I want to kind of point out a bit on the skepticisms, right? If you look at that, okay, what people think, many majority of people, I'm not talking about like very technical people who understand or who work with blockchain or implemented blockchains. The majority sees blockchain as crypto, right? And all the ups and downs in the cryptocurrency and all the kind of uh, negative incidents time to time that happened put the whole kind of philosophy of blockchain under question for many people. That for those people, I strongly recommend to look at what blockchain means rather than what cryptocurrency means. That gives you a much, much better understanding on the philosophy of the whole concept and the whole world of Web3 that will definitely solve that. Okay, where this blockchain can help. Okay. And why? Okay. Yeah, there are cryptos, there are scams, there are kind of, hacks, everything's happened. But these are all, to me, the majority happen in the cryptocurrency layer rather than the blockchain technology itself. Coming back to the second part of the question that why does Heisenberg need blockchain? As I mentioned in our first part, the whole Heisenberg started as one of the research agenda. We were investigating the intersection of AI and blockchain back in University of Waterloo. And there were different topics, but all the topics or research direction that we were talking about focused on, okay, where blockchain can help AI and where AI can help blockchain. Okay, so there are two ways here. So for the first one, AI helping blockchain, you don't necessarily need blockchain to develop the AI. For example, using ChatGPT for trading, right? That's a use case of AI for blockchain, or using ChatGPT for DApp recommendations in a wallet.
So
Okay,
this is
based
where
on
AI helps blockchain
Hey,
projects.
AI help blockchain. Yeah. So for example, you have a wallet, you open it. For example, now I know that I think Coinbase wallet. When you go there, it also recommends some other dApps that, okay, based on your activity, these apps are useful. You install them or you use them. So these are actually the usage of or the use case of AI for blockchain. One of the big use cases is personalization, and that was actually one of the projects we've been working to see that how we can create a personalized experience for Web3 users using AI. So that's one story. The other one is blockchain for AI. And that's where Heisenberg kind of, position. We've been working in AI, particularly on the efficiency and effectiveness of the processes in AI for several years as a researchers. And data management, which means collecting the data, processing the data, preparing and have it ready for AI, is a very infrastructure intensive process and as well as very time consuming in terms of the development, right? And we're like, okay, how can we solve this challenge, right? The challenge was that you need to, first of all, the majority of these data managements are now at the moment are kind of on the shoulders of the developer in every single company. And the question was, can we somehow uh, change it a bit, take this heavy lift legwork from the company's shoulders and put it on the kind of more decentralized components. That's where kind of we found that blockchain can be useful for Heisenberg, okay, for this data management. And then we thought, okay, what if we don't use blockchain? What are the kind of challenges there? The challenges is that, first of all, again, the ownership of all these data managements being created will be gone to the kind of a company while they could be done by some people who are expert and they can monetize the knowledge of developing these data pipelines or data agents. And then they kind of, becomes a passive income for them. So we started with that. And then we're like, okay, there is another huge step
So,
that
so blockchain right now is not still in this in the picture, right? So in this
no,
step. Okay.
not yet. The
Okay, so this is very
blockchain, yeah, the blockchain part, this part could be done without blockchain. We could have a
Mhm.
website that people or developers comes and develop it. We don't use blockchain, right? The blockchain part specifically came in when we looked at the infrastructure. We wanted to make it cheaper and easier to build, right? Then we look at, okay, where the kind of, how we can make it cheaper. The cheap part comes from, okay, if I can have much cheaper infrastructure. So much cheaper infrastructure led us to, okay, we use idle CPUs. So we wanted to use these idle CPUs, but the question was that how can we verify them they are doing the right job? How can we make sure that everything is secure, right? That's where blockchain and the whole layers of, from L1 to our layers could bring the value to us that, okay, we can have nodes in our network, in a distributed network, why they can communicate in a very economical way, which is our tokenomics, right? So they provide their service. We guarantee that we pay them, and they guarantee that they do what we ask. So these kind of win-win handshake that I'm talking about is something that you cannot do it easily without blockchain.
yeah, because it's backed by like cryptographic contracts, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, cryptographic and the tokenomics, right? Because at the
Hmm.
end of the day, every how can you kind of promise to a person that, okay, you know what, I pay what you
Hmm.
provide without having a very well established kind of smart contract which is out of my control as an entity that
Right.
take care of, okay, you know what, you gave this service and this is what you get paid. You know what I mean? And of course, then it comes to the fact that there is another beautiful part about the tokenomics and the blockchain is that you don't need necessarily being paid by dollar. We will have our own currency that everyone can easily communicate on one particular kind of, single language, unified financial language, which is the currency of the network. And they provide the computes. And we verify, that's the verification I emphasize again, that's very important, which we are able to verify that the job has been done correctly.
Right.
So we pay for what has been done. Okay, so that's kind of the part that we find it on kind of unavoidable. We have to have blockchain for these parts.
Yeah. So okay, so it sounds like there are two things that I'm hearing here is and it's kind of funny because it's a fundamentally like the use case for blockchain in general, like what I'm hearing for the last several years. The first one, of course, is the cybersecurity to make sure that that data is authentic and there's nothing meddling there. Everything is on blockchain, everything is transparent, and you can see where it's coming from, who provides it, who purchases, who buys it, and like what's happening there. But the second part, which is by the way, cybersecurity very important in that sense, like especially if you're sharing that type of compute. And the second part, of course, is kind of like to make sure that you're not being undercut, that your performance is not being undervalued, that you're not being underpaid from the supplier side, and
Mhm,
from the buyer side, right? You want to make sure that you're not getting something that you were not promised, uh, that you were promised, right? So, for example, like if you're being promised something once, like some amount of compute or even just like anything, like let's like a product or something like that, that it's like in the cloud or something like that, you can kind of lose it in between. You can lose that data, and if you don't have the blockchain, you have to go through it manually or something like that. And I'm trying to dumb it down a little bit, of course, but probably because I'm not as smart. But on the blockchain, you don't have to do all this work because it's being already verified by you, and the check marks are there, and you know exactly what you're buying, and you're basically you cool, calm, and collected because of that. I guess
mhm,
that's how
mhm.
I understand it based on what you explained to me.
No, that's actually correct. I just want to add one more thing is that for Heisenberg, there is another layer of this verification related to our businesses, right? The fact that, there are a lot of developments, we want to take it from business shoulders. They spend a lot of time to do the developments, right, of these data agents internally, while they can share the majority part of it while they keep a portion for themselves. And that part, if we want to do it correctly, there must be a verification mechanisms for the developments. Who developed what? Who submitted this data agent that I'm using it? And is it something trustable, right? So if we go, for example, let's say do it in centralized way, there is no easy way to do these verifications and make sure that this is something that, the developers will not be kind of, abused. So they get what they deserve in terms of developing this data agent. And the companies, they can actually transparently see who developed this data agent, how it's been used in the past, and if it's trustable and verifiable. These are something that blockchain make it much, much, much easier. And to me, this is a very kind of, direct use case of blockchain in AI.
And it does sound, by the way, like it's cost saving, right? If you have some sort of third party auditors that do it manually, that sounds expensive. If you do everything on blockchain, you already have this job done because you don't have to audit it because it's literally solid proof.
Yeah, it's kind of, you don't want to reinvent the whole cycle for yourself, right? So if it's there, we can leverage it and of course require a lot of customization, but we do it as an infrastructures and every single business, they don't need to do it for themselves. They can just use Heisenberg and Heisenberg take care of all the verification, everything's for any kind of, data agents.
So I'm curious about, like some use cases, right? So, like in the future, what industries do you think will be impacted by artificial intelligence, like in the next several years? Like, what are specific use cases you see for Heisenberg that Heisenberg is actually focusing on right now? Data agents were mentioned, but like data agents for what, for example?
Mhm, mhm. Well, this is a very challenging question these days because every single
Everything
day,
is changing, right?
yeah, everything is changing, and I don't know, but I'm saying that is already in the news or not, right? That's one thing. But I believe that these fast-pacing changes required fast-pacing development. Okay. So if you want to do development, everything's by yourself and build these data pipelines to get the data, process it, and make your AI agent useful, you get kind of, you go behind. The changes are much faster. So the future to me is that no one develop these data pipelines anymore. They just plug and play, plug, customize, personalize, play. That's the kind of the future of data management to me. We should not have kind of, for every single company. There are users who sit and they said that, okay, this is the infrastructure I need to build. This
Right.
is the data I should get. These are the process I need to do. And this is what output I want. No, they should like, okay, you know what? There is a data agent that has its own infrastructure. So you don't need to do any kind of configuration for that. All you need to do is say that, okay, you know what? I need this particular data agent who's working in social media. Feed me with the intelligence, with the signals from
Hmm.
the crypto KOL for my task, which could be, I don't know, day-to-day trading. Okay, so that's the future I see. Particular use cases, to be honest, based on what we are building, the sky is the limit at the moment.
Hmm.
So depends on the specific businesses. There are different requirements. But what we've seen at the moment, the intelligence from media, from public data, is very interesting for many kind of AI players that they want to build data agents that give them the public signals, public intelligence, and mix it with some internal data agents that works with on their data and come up with a very comprehensive intelligence that their AI model can leverage to think and act, effectively and
So like
practically.
getting data from the media, and we're talking like different things, right? There's some news and politics, but there's also finance and crypto and all of that. And all of those data points contribute to some sort of a market sentiment, fear versus greed or something like that. That's just like a very surface level popular examples. But like there are deeper things in that, and that can be utilized. Um, I guess that data is being collected by the data agent, and then the AI agent will be hiring the data agent to like
Mhm.
acquire all this data to make the AI agent more efficient.
Yeah, no, data agent basically they're supercharging AI agent, right?
Exactly.
And keep in mind that, we are living in an era that having access to raw data is not a challenge for businesses anymore. Okay.
Right.
With few bucks, hundreds of bucks, even very, very kind of unique raw data, you can actually get it, the data. But this raw data needs a lot of massaging, a lot of contextualization to be ready for your task. That's the part that gets more challenging now. And every company they are doing by themselves, while it could be kind of be more democratized and shared that, okay, you know what? The legwork has been done, gets to the point, and then I do a bit of more personalization for my own purpose with no code. Okay. So that's the part that, to me, it's getting more important, having access to smart data rather than raw data.
I like your no code part where you're saying, or like the just overall like simplification of things. And that's something that I saw as a problem with crypto. Like the horrible UI that crypto has, the Web3 apps and, connect your wallets and all of that is just extremely, extremely dissatisfying to play around with. Like especially if you're a newbie and you have to like make sure that you don't lose your passwords there and the phrases there and the keys and the addresses and all of that. It's just extremely stressful for normies. Even for me, like I've been in this for what since 2017, right? For I don't know, 7 years now, and going into the eight, and it's just like uncomfortable. And when I was as a marketing guy, for me, it's just like yeah, like I just want to know what button to press and to have something come out of that. Just like an extremely like quick output where you can have like this dopamine hit, maybe not dopamine, but something where it's like, okay, mission accomplished, this is it. And I like the fact that with agents, obviously it's a brand. Like AI agent, data agent, we call them agent. Before it was like bots and all of that. But I feel like, in my opinion, it's going that way, at least verbally, like we call them agents, because we're trying to humanize them a little bit. We're trying to like let people know that these are your agent. And what is an agent? Agent, like I imagine it like if I'm an actor and I have an agent basically goes out there and advocates for me with different film companies, whereas like this actor is the best, you should hire this actor for this film, this is his portfolio, this is this, that. I, as an actor, my job is to be a good actor, to stay fit, and just not to get in trouble. That's my job. But my agent's job is to go out there and do the tasks that give me money, right? And that's
Mhm,
basically how I see agent. And I feel like once we get the agents be exactly like that, where you can just talk to them or write with them and they can go out there and they already know what to do for you. And then they just give you that data that you need, that information. For example, an agent will come to you and say like, hey, I have five film proposals for you. There's an action movie, there's a comedy, like a romantic movie, like here's what they pay for it for that. Here are other actors, here are all the data points that are important to you for your decision making. But I already done all the job for you. You just need to have like a choice. That's kind of like how I imagine agents work. And I feel like we're getting closer to that in artificial intelligence, specifically products, right? AI agents, data agents. Do you agree with that, or did I maybe miss something?
Oh no, I totally agree with what you said. Basically, I wanted to raise this in terms of the interface and user experience that you were talking about, right? Uh, just think of it. We are in 2025, maybe in 2021, right? Do you think what's the percentage of the world knew about AI? Or what's percentage of the world could use AI? I'm sure that maybe one third of the percentage compared to now. And the reason is that AI now it's become very convenient for any person to use it. Not 2 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, if you wanted to use it, you had to do the coding to build a model for yourselves, and then you could use it, right? That's why it was kind of, just owned or being used by a particular set of users. Now it becomes more convenient, right? Everyone can use it. And for the blockchain, I think the similar things happening. If you look at the growth of the UX in
Hmm.
last 4 years, you see that a lot got much better. But I think it also comes from the mindset of some uh, players in Web3 and blockchain that we believe that we are reinventing the internet, right?
Hmm.
So that's kind of brought the in kind of some mindset that okay, no, we have to do everything from scratch. We don't care where the user experience is. Let's do it from the beginning
Hmm.
and then build another user experience. But what users expect, they want to see that, okay, this user experience that they have in Web 2 comes here and it gets better in Web 3, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of the part that is changing now. I noticed that more developers considering, okay, you know what? We don't need to do everything even from user experience from scratch. Let's actually build a very Web 2 like feel like user experience,
Right.
but behind the scene, we have this powerful infrastructure of blockchain and decentralization.
Love that.
And that's how I see it now. It's changing. In terms of the agents, you're completely correct. That's how it must be. That's how your envisioning of the AI role in our life. That's exactly how it should be. There should be a very practical agent who can communicate, think, and act like human, but in a much, much more effective and comprehensive way. That's how I see it.
Amazing. And so I wanted to bring back this conversation a little bit back to the crypto, right?
Mhm.
And I wanted to ask you, can you walk me through how contributors to Heisenberg earn, right? Because we kind of established last time when I spoke with you about the fact that you can just rent out your CPU from your laptop and you can earn rewards. But I just want to ask you, how exactly do they earn? How do they determine rewards? How does Heisenberg determine how much you earn?
Mhm.
And how does the Heisenberg token fits into, the larger ecosystem?
That's a very good question. I give you big pictures, but there are components of the tokenomics are being designed at the moment.
By the way,
So,
those are the questions that my friends are asking me after the first episode.
yeah,
They're like super interested, like, okay, so what's the economics here? How
okay.
do we earn? What's how
So
much?
the tokenomics, if I want to look at the whole tokenomics for Heisenberg, there are three different players here, right? There are businesses who are they are using these data agents. There are developers who are developing these data agents. There are compute providers who are providing the computes for these data agents, right? And of course, there are some other roles in our tokenomics, verifiers, kind of, disputer and other roles that I don't want to get too technical on those aspects. But generally speaking, for example, for compute providers, right? The way it works is that we actually uh, implemented pointing system, which is calculating the points or the rewards every single compute should be kind of, assigned to. So the way that that rewarding system work is it look at how much uptime your compute node is. For example, every minute that your computer or your compute is connected to the network, you are earning. Let's say 10 points per minute,
So it's like a
right?
baseline.
A baseline, yeah. So that's something that we want to make sure that to be fair. And being uptime is actually a critical component for us, being accessible and being available, right? So you're earning points just being online and being connected to the network. That's one way that you are earning. So it doesn't matter if you are running a job or not, you are earning points. The other component is, as I said last time, you can have your own business. Basically, you have people in two layers underneath who you refer them to join the network. And while they are earning for their uptime or compute, you are also earning from the system, not from their earning.
You get a
From
kickback
your,
basically.
yes. So do you also earn from their kind of uptime as well? And other than these referral earning points and the uptime, there is the third one, the running the job, right? That's
Hmm.
why you are there. You want to use your compute to running these data agents. For that one, there are several factors involved. The time of the processing of a task that a data agent that we assigned, the volume of the data that you have processed during the time, and some other factors that impact based on the data agent and different tasks that data agent needs to execute. And that define a weight for your time. For example, let's say in last 10 minutes, you run a data agent, right? So 10 minutes without running a job was 10 points per minute. What happens? These 10 points will be multiplied with the weight of these jobs that you executed in last 10 minutes. So it
Hmm.
boosts your earning per minute. Okay. And then you collect these points. You collect these points. You depends on how much compute you've done, how long you have uptime, and how much referral kind of feeding you. You will be kind of assigned to different tiers of the use computes we have. We have different tiers, tier one, two, three, four, and these tiers kind of will be depends on how active. Let's say, for example, tier one is the kind of gold tier. That's
Right,
that's
right.
what we call it, right? And then once you earn the points, what happens? We have a token, right?
Hmm.
At the end of each period that we define, we look at all the users who earn points, and all these points will be mapped to a percentage of the token that we allocated to the community,
Hmm.
okay? Which is going iteratively, periodically over time, okay?
Hmm.
So that's kind of how these points that you earn, which depends on what tier you belong to, depends on how much point you earn, you will be mapped to a certain amount of tokens on a Heisenberg network.
Okay, so two questions on that is that first of all, the jobs. Um, do I decide which jobs my compute needs to do? Like, is one job different from the other? And like, what do I need to do to like, do I need to do something? Or like the system kind of decides what kind of job I deserve?
Well, the system, first of all, this is another kind of component of the network. We call them dispatchers. Dispatchers decide what nodes to do what. And there are a lot of factors, right? For example, as I said, uptime is very important. It's mapped to a reliability score that we have for you, right? The more reliable you are, the more kind of prioritized your node is to run the jobs. And of course, depends on the history of the jobs that you have executed. This dispatcher decide that what's jobs best fitted for your compute. All the computes do not have the same power, right?
Right.
But we have to make sure that to be fair and for all these kind of different levels of power of CPUs, right?
Hmm.
So that's kind of the dispatcher decide. If we want to kind of delegate these to users, that gets very complicated, very dirty, and very messy. So
Right.
that's why the dispatchers, which at the beginning is going to be centralized, down the road, we're going to have dispatchers from the network. So there are some nodes that they're also earning points to running the dispatchers to
So,
do that.
so my brain automatically thinking, okay, how do I make sure that dispatcher likes me? How do I make sure that I get the best job? Like, what kind of compute do I need, and how do I game the system? Because I'm already thinking in terms of incentives, right? I'm now incentivized to think
Mhm.
to get the dispatcher give me a better job so that I can get more money.
Yeah.
And so there are four questions to you. Like that's like on the instinctual level, I feel like if I have a shitty laptop that has maybe like available a little bit of compute, I'm probably not going to be the priority for the dispatcher. But if I have like a freaking server here and compute, like in like multiple dozens of gigabytes that is available just for this because I want to like make sure that this is my full-time income now, not just the side hustle, and I have all this thing available, amazing bandwidth, amazing internet, amazing electricity, like nothing's gonna like break. I'm like, will dispatcher think, okay, this is a reliable source. We're just gonna kind of go to that as a priority. Like, what's the
Mhm.
logic here? Is that something's gonna happen?
That's actually a very good question. No. So
Okay, you just
that's
you
kind
just
of
upset a lot of people.
yeah. No, that's something that I totally understand where this come from. But that kind of, push us. If we have such mindset, then it push us toward the monetizations and some kind of centralization in decentralized
Right,
world.
because it's centralized now, right?
So,
Because you're just
yeah.
gonna rely on this big one.
Exactly. So that's not how it works. We have different type of jobs, right? Depends on the company. That's what I said. Obviously, the nodes that are more powerful deserve to earn more. That's kind of the logic here. We are not in a communism decentralization. We are in a kind of, I don't want to call it capitalism. I don't know what kind of,
Merit based maybe or something. I don't know.
yeah, something like this. So everyone must earn based
Yeah.
on the kind of the compute that they are providing. So there are the good things. The beauty of this data agent task is that there are many of these jobs can be executed on any type of CPU power. Okay, so what we are doing, we are actually executing on all the CPUs. But there are some jobs, maybe they are kind of better to run on more powerful one. So that's going to be an extra earning, not something for kind of, that we say that, okay, we ignore this and we just focus on those powerful one. No, that's not going to work. Actually, this is something that we were very sensitive on our tokenomics and our reward distribution system to make sure that any node earns, right? But obviously, some nodes do more jobs. Logically, they have to get more, but that's not going to be a huge differentiation. So, for example, there was some a person told exactly asked the same question: should I buy a new CPU
Right.
to earn more? What I told him, okay, you know what? No, connect your current CPUs. Let us use them, and you'll see that when you see that what tier you are, you see that, okay, you earn as much as, I don't know, maybe a data center. You are in the same tier, let's say gold tier. Why? Because you had more uptimes. Keep in mind, when there is a powerful CPU, probably they are kind of leveraging that for many different purposes. Maybe the uptime is much less than your compute, right? Maybe the referral system, well, a data center cannot do the referral system for all the CPUs. So you can actually earn more from other channels
Mhm.
and kind of compete with these nodes rather than saying that, oh, you know what, there is nothing for me. No, actually, this is something that we are very sensitive to make sure that we are not implying a centralized kind of paradigm in a decentralized compute.
Right, right. Well, I guess my follow-up question is then the tiered system is like, how do I, because my incentive now, I want to be the gold system or like the diamond or gold, the number one, so that I can earn more points. It sounds right now like so far it's only being determined by the uptime, like by the time that you're live. With Heisenberg, that's kind of like the number one priority, like that will determine which tier you are. So the longer you are with Heisenberg, the higher tier you
Exactly.
have. Is that the only data point that you're going to be looking at, or there's going to be something else?
To assign the jobs, the uptime is a very important factor because
Hmm.
we need reliable compute, right? When even there is a less powerful compute, which has much more reliability compared to a more powerful one, we're gonna pick that one because for us, the data agents, many of their tasks can be executed on many different type of CPUs. And the other parts that we look at when it comes to the tier, your referral systems, right? So imagine you have, yeah, one. weak CPU, but you have, I don't know, 40 in your layer, and each of them they have 30 in their layer. You are making crazy number of points compared to one node, which is very more powerful than you. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? So
Right.
these are actually playing important factors to go up in the tiers.
So there's a chance for the little guy. That's good.
Oh, there is chance for everyone.
Well, allow me to ask you about the token, the Heisenberg token. Personally, like, give me the points. I'll exchange for token. I then cash out the token or hold the token, and that's it. I don't like to play around with things, but a lot of people like to play around with things. They like to have some sort of a different utility of the token and like voting or whatever, decentralized DAOs and all that. They like to have that sort of sense of power, because they're like holding this token like a membership, right? So I guess my question to you is, will Heisenberg token do something beyond the rewards? Like, will it play a role in the governance, some sort of like priority access to data agent or ecosystem services? Like, do you see like something like that for the token as well, in addition to just rewards?
That's kind of, the part that comes to the concept of blockchain, not cryptocurrency. The token is not just the currency, right? The
Hmm.
token is the assets that you can use for kind of, to represent your ownership and your power in a network. So that's how actually we see it as well. So it's not going to be just for the payment mechanism here. It's going to be your power. You can stake it. You can use it for the voting. You can use it for different other rules in our protocol, right? For example, as I said, the verification is one perspective, one component, and verification we are making it very kind of seamless and autonomous on our side, so you don't need to do it as a verifier manually, and there are going to be another jobs that your compute will provide, but you will stake, for example, to
Hmm.
become a verifier there. For the voting, that's kind of something that we are still in design and how it can be leveraged. And there are some other kind of rules that I don't want kind of to spoil it before we announce it, but there are definitely more than a payment mechanism. That's something that I should emphasize here, because
Hmm.
the token is not just a currency for the network. The token is for you, this is your representative power of the ownership,
Hmm.
and kind of use it for different purpose that you think the direction or the kind of roles that you can play in the network.
So it's like a good news for techies, I guess. And then, but for the degens out there, it's still going to be on like exchange, right? People will trade that as well, like on some sort of a centralized exchange as a token, like as a usual way. So that's how do you like, what do you think about that? As far as like, I don't know, like what if people will start trading Heisenberg like crazy and start speculating on that? Does that, I mean, that will definitely be a good marketing, but also can be a bad marketing. Like, what do you think about that just in general, having a token like on a big exchange?
That's actually a very good question, and I believe that some projects are kind of, suffering from it as well. You know what I mean? Because
AI
the
tokens
the
right now, yeah.
exchange, the kind of, all the trading define the value of the token sometimes.
Yeah.
This something comes to the way that we are designing our tokenomics and how the governance happens. What part of the tokens can be kind of be part of the trading, and what can be leveraged for the utility and the use of the network, right? These are kind of, part of the tokenomics that we will definitely put it publicly available, but we are trying to minimize the impact while maximizing the perks of these aspects. But definitely, from my personal perspective, of course, I'm not the main decision maker, but I definitely want to make sure that the token is a utility token in many kind of aspects, rather than just a currency token, or to be just used for the
Of course.
trading. You know what I mean? But there are strategies that we are trying to develop, particularly on the governance, to make sure that how this token can be leveraged for
Hmm.
different purposes.
Would you say like you'd rather not Heisenberg to skyrocket like crazy as a token value from the currency perspective, just so that you don't want to deal with the whole thing? You just want to kind of deal with the utility?
Well, who
You
doesn't
have the
like
temptation. You have the temptation, right? Of
Yeah,
like,
of course. At the end of the day, to me, every founders in Web3, they love to see a skyrocket token for their sites. But
Yeah.
if that comes at the cost that it also a skyrocket
It's
down,
gonna fall.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
So I prefer to have it kind of, more stable,
Yeah,
that we
gradually.
leverage and the demands and the definition of the demands and the value of token comes from the utility rather than just the trading.
Yeah.
That's I personally how I like it. And that's I think that the philosophy mainly behind it. It got a bit mixed up in many projects because there unfortunately there are many kind of users they are looking for easy money, right? They think that crypto is a easy money
Hmm.
kind of way to earn, so they want to do trading. Okay, I buy this one and as soon as I got that part I sell it. Yeah, good for you and do that, but that's not actually the purpose that a project create a token, right? They create a token for all kind of aspects that we discussed, and that's something that we also focus on more.
That's amazing. And it's funny because we kind of like organically went over my remaining questions. I was gonna ask you about the, additional utility beyond rewards. I was gonna ask you about, preferred participation in the network as far as like different levels of the CPU. One thing I wanted to ask you about like a long-term vision for the tokenomics, and you kind of explained that as well, but is there anything else that I missed about what we didn't discuss about the long-term vision for the tokenomics? Maybe like having it as a Heisenberg token as core part of AI infrastructure. It seems kind of straightforward in that sense, which is beautiful, by the way. But like, is there anything else that I've missed?
There are some aspects that we are still discussing. Maybe it's not as straight as, forward as having just one token. That's one aspect that we are still working on it to see that maybe even it becomes defined differently. And but nothing kind of finalized. But I discussed so far is exactly what we are sure so far. But there are some aspects that we are trying to seriously think about it and how to do it from even kind of long-term engagement of our community. There are many kind of believers out there. They want to stay, and but there are some that they just want to get kind of the portion of the incentive and just move to the next project. So these are the aspects that we are trying to design part of the tokenomics to have a very long lasting incentivizations. So everyone sees it actually as a more long-term passive income for them rather than, okay, very short period. And that's part of the design that we are doing on the tokenomics as well.
Awesome. I wanted to also ask you something. As far as like, because a lot of people are interested right now in projects like Heisenberg, and I'm getting a lot of questions right now about Heisenberg after our podcast and my podcast with your core contributor, Mehdi. Is like, if someone wants to get involved with Heisenberg Network right now, whether it's a developer, investor, or just someone curious, where should they start? And I'm not saying like how do they contact you, but like I guess it's more about education. How can they learn more just about this idea and like core tech, I guess, technology behind it?
Um, that's actually a very good question. Depends on what role you want to play in the kind of, the ecosystem. There are different sources, right? For example, as a compute provider, compared to the developer, would be different. And we are actually preparing more contents, which one of the main challenges is our X channel, right? So that's the part that we try to kind of have it as a blackboard for our community to give them progressive updates on what we are developing. So the documentations, any kind of launch, any kind of releases will be discussed in our network. And down the road, we're going to have a community channel, most likely kind of a Discord channel that everyone can get more direct access to the resources and the team in terms of, the questions and everything that they have. But I think just stay tuned through the Twitter channel, and you'll get even the kind of the first-hand information on what community channel we are launching and use it.
And by the way, there's still currently a wait list to get Heisenberg node. And Magdi, your co-founder, also kind of discussed that on another space that there's going to be a launch very soon. Would you like to share some more information about that? When can people kind of like get their hands on it?
Yeah, of course. So for the launch part, we focus now on the compute. community first. We want to kind of start onboarding them batch by batch, and the node will be released by 420, which is now, yeah, in 2 weeks almost.
I
So
love
we're
that.
gonna start the, yeah, the 420 is kind of a
So 420
holy
is gonna
number
be
for us. So that's kind of, what we focus, and we're gonna launch it and start onboarding the wait list batch by batch based on the order that they kind of, join the wait list. And we have a relatively huge number at the moment, but obviously what the way it's gonna happen, the onboarding uh, kind of speed will go up in next kind of couple of months. At the beginning will be a bit kind of smaller batches, and then it gets to much bigger batches as soon as the stability of network is being tested while we are doing the onboarding. And then for the developer side, that's going to start after that. We are developing the developer kit, so you can do the low code implementation of these data agent. We have the waitlist for that, so for that one also a relatively large list as well. So we're going to start onboarding first elite developers, which means that a small portion of those have been joined, and then we let others to start joining and developing the data agents and monetize them.
That's amazing. Everybody look out for the date 420. Heisenberg is launching on 420, everybody. Mori, my last question to you. I know you gotta go soon, so just one last question. What is the one piece of advice you'd give to young entrepreneurs looking to build in AI and blockchain? Just like one piece of advice, I guess, for
Uh,
people.
that's it. Giving one piece is not easy. Giving
Uh,
advice in AI and crypto is not easy, to be honest.
Not
As
a
I said,
financial
the
advice.
past, I think in the first part of the podcast, I also mentioned that I could give more advice before. Now it's
Uh-huh.
very difficult to give the advice because everything is changing. But to me, I think one thing is that every single entrepreneur in the intersection of the AI and crypto, they want to get into domain. First, educate them on the crypto side very well, not the crypto, sorry, on the blockchain side. And then for sure, educate themselves on AI. And the first thing that they have to ask themselves, and I'm happy that you also ask it today that, okay, can you do this idea that you have in mind without either? Do you really need it, or is it just nice and sexy to have it, this
Hmm.
intersection? If you don't see the need, don't go after it just for being fancy or being nice. Find the need that actually the intersection, the kind of, this there is a synergy of these two. Otherwise, don't do it. That's my first word of advice for every entrepreneur there.
Yeah, in other words, don't do it for the hype.
Don't do it for the hype. Yes, exactly. Yeah. There are a lot of nice and kind of dreamy things that people talking about, but try to see that. Ask yourself, can I do it only with AI, not without blockchain, or can I do it with blockchain technology without AI? If you can, don't do the intersection. It just is a very messy, complicated world that you get into. That I mean, and I know how challenging it is because there are a lot of changes in both sides. So make sure that you see the need first and then jump on it.
Maury, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate the piece of advice that you're giving our audience. And once again, 420 is the launch date for Heisenberg Network compute side. I'm gonna drop all the links to get on the wait list and get more familiar with Heisenberg Network. Maury, once again, thank you for your time, and I hope to talk to you again soon after the launch.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.